So, Euan Blair, you've said something I've not really heard many people say about AI, which is that the greatest risk is not AI overtaking humanity, it's us wasting a hugely beneficial revolution by not equipping our workforce to make it work. Tell us about that.
The discourse in the media often focuses on what could go wrong. I think spending more time on what could go right is really important. And crucially, what can we do to help ensure it goes right? And the key is going to be training people. I mean, this is the most profound change that we've seen possibly since the Industrial Revolution, as AI really starts to hit the wider economy. And we're going to have to embark on a widespread reskilling and upskilling of the workforce if we're going to capitalize on these opportunities. And the reality is, with public budgets constrained, often company budgets constrained, if we want to be able to provide incredible public services, AI is the key.
If you're talking about upskilling the workforce, are you not essentially training people to do AI, which then trains them out of their job?
So we often say to people, AI is unlikely to take your job, but someone with AI skills just might. The reality is AI needs humans in the loop, and particularly for safety and ethical reasons, but also for it to be really successful at the moment. It is actually often with AI, not really a technology problem or challenge, but it's a cultural challenge and a human challenge. So if you can't change the way you work as a consequence of introducing AI, you will start to become obsolete. So the best way we get ahead of that is by training people and not make the mistakes, by the way, we made through deindustrialization of not sufficiently equipping people for what comes next.
So Keir Starmer's been saying two big things in relation to the public sector and AI. So firstly, he's been saying no person's substantive time should be spent on a task where digital or AI can do it better, quicker, and to the same high quality and standard. And the next thing he's been saying is that the digitisation of government services can create up to £45 billion worth of savings and productivity benefits. Is that right? Lots of public sector jobs are going to go and billions of pounds in savings.
So I think it's actually less about public sector jobs going and more about how you actually get the public sector much more productive, because he is absolutely right in terms of, first, the digitisation of government has been something that people have been working on in the background for a long period of time, but it probably hasn't been seen as the number one priority for the Prime Minister or government. We now have a Prime Minister who is saying, this is our number one priority, we have to get this right. That's incredibly exciting because government sits on so much data and it can be doing so much more to help its citizens if it can actually just use that data effectively, if it can automate a lot of these basic tasks and processes that so much time gets wasted on. Now,
what do you think of the government's overall strategic approach on AI, which seems to be following the less regulated US approach rather than the more highly regulated EU approach? Dare I say it? A Labour government looking for perhaps Brexit benefits?
I think that you could even say that the government is sort of pursuing a healthy middle ground between what we're seeing in the US and what we're seeing in Europe. And look, the reality is, for Britain, I actually think Britain is unlikely to win the battle on building the most sophisticated foundational models in the short term. America is a long way ahead. China is incredibly advanced in those areas. When it comes to things like data centers, our costs of energy and the sheer lack of space we have to go and build lots of them will be a challenge. The thing we can do when it comes to AI is say, why not make Britain and the British workforce the most AI native in the OECD?
And you would say, look, there's a wave out there, let's ride the wave, there's a revolution, let's be part of it. But you have a business, presumably this is good business for you, you can make money out of this.
Well, look, we've had 20 years of lagging productivity and yet more software tools than ever and growing tech spends. They've not yet resulted in tangible gains for many people, and we can do that better by training the workforce. We do a huge amount, for example, on training over 55s. The single pocket of our apprentice population that is adapting fastest to technology right now is probably the over 55s, and they're also the ones that report seeing the most obvious benefits because they're incredibly excited to engage with this technology revolution. It's often a misconception that it is just a kind of Gen Z obsession using technology. People of every age want to engage.
Now, I know of a very famous person who is an evangelist for AI. And this very famous person is the father of a very successful tech entrepreneur in this area. So my question to you, Euan Blair, is who is the tutor in this area? Are you Tony Blair's AI tutor, or is Tony Blair your AI tutor?
I couldn't possibly answer that or divulge any of the lengthy discussions we've had on this subject over the dinner table for about the last 8 or 9 years. Suffice it to say, his evangelism is real. He really does get this and see this as a defining issue of our time.
You're a bit like me, one of these useless arts graduates. You wish you'd done, I think, was it an apprenticeship in software engineering, and that you've got a bit above a bone to pick, whoever was Prime Minister at the time, who came up with that 50% target of sending school leavers to university. That was wrong, you think?
I can't remember who that was, but it was, look, by the way, the belief was the more people that went to university, the more people would sort of benefit from skills, the more people would learn, the more accessibility, jobs would have. It didn't work out that way, so you have to sort of change and adapt. And the reality is, we have had an education system that for too long has been fixated on classroom learning, rote learning, exams, and not actually practical learning, real world value. And when it comes to technology, by the way, again, the ability to use technology and deploy it effectively is so fundamental. The best way to learn that is by experimenting with it on the job.
Now, you were a teenager in Downing Street. We've now got the Starmer, a new generation of Labour children in Downing Street. I mean, do you have any advice for the Starmer children? I don't know, supporting Arsenal's not cool, that sort of thing. Any advice for them?
As a big Liverpool fan, I fully agree with your Arsenal point. I think the main thing is, as much as it sounds sort of impossible or even absurd in those circumstances, just to make it as normal as possible. Focus on what's normal. When you go behind that door and into the kind of family flat, it genuinely felt like a normal household. It felt not dissimilar from the way our lives had always been. And the more you can do that, especially through pretty formative and often challenging teenage years, the better.
Euan Blair, thank you very much.
Thank you.